Okay, let's start with this inshallah. When you see the state of the ummah right now, you reflect, you ponder, you cannot help yourself but you will be confused. Some of us at least, or if all of us are brought up with this confusion. By the way, this is a picture of Masjid al-Haram from modern day Turkey. Completely destroyed picture, right? Allah says, Kuntum khayra ummah, you are the best ummah in Surah Al-Imran. If we are really best ummah, why our situation of Muslim majority country is so messed up? You go for Umrah and Hajj and the first reaction, the first time if you have left America, then you will see the streets of Makkah, Medina. Makkah, Medina is far better than some of the other Muslim majority countries. You will see Pakistan, you will see Sudan, you will see issues, Afghanistan. We don't have any power in the world right now. We don't have any say. Big non-Muslim countries are attacking Muslim countries without even asking them. And if we were going to say anything, then they will label us immediately terrorist, right? And we are a great civilization. Ever since Prophet Muhammad came, Sahabas came, Umayyad, and we are going to discuss Umayyad dynasty and then Abbasid dynasty, we had the golden age. Not only in terms of scholarship, even in terms of medical science and the technology of that time, we had our golden age. We have medical doctors like Zahrawi, Ibn Sina, Ibn Rushd, and scholarship like Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Malik, Imam Shafi. We had our golden age, where we were we were excelling in the religious field and in the modern technology. That's why we call that golden age of Abbasid time period, as we'll see that. But where is that? Everything is gone, it looks like. Everything is gone. If you see a Muslim country right now, well, I am not bashing like Western imperialism, but those of you who are coming from Muslim majority countries, not born and raised here, they will agree to this to some extent, that in some Muslim majority country we don't have any ethics, we don't have any honesty, bribery is common, corruption is common, politicians are corrupted, there is no infrastructure or planning. And a young person who is raised after the demise of Ottoman Empire, like all of us, we are post-colonial Muslims, we are forced to think, where is the best ummah when Quran says we are the best ummah, right? Economic crisis, currency is falling apart, always dependent on IMF zakat money. Why is that so? In every Muslim country, if you are from Pakistan, you think only Pakistan is messed up. No, every Muslim country. If you are from Lebanon, Lebanon is messed up. If you are from Egypt, Egypt is messed up. If you are from Afghanistan, Afghanistan is going through messed up. Why? Politically, we are only dependent on the West. Even if we have our own money and resources, like some of the Middle East countries, we are still dependent on West. Why? Why? We tried the democracy of the West because of allergy to Islamic system, and we have failed. You need to understand what went wrong and where went wrong, and for that we need to understand history, how it all started. To have confidence that we were not like this before. People used to learn Arabic from the Western countries as we are learning English in the Eastern countries this time. To get the admission into the Islamic universities, the German, Italian, French used to learn Arabic to get knowledge in the science and technology. Where is that time? And you'll see all, inshallah, in this semester we'll cover half of the history, next semester we'll cover half of the history. But biggest challenge for the ummah right now, and try to understand this, the challenge we are facing right now is unprecedented. We had challenge where we had ideological challenge, but we were military-wise strong. Like at the times of Abu Bakr Khilafah, there was a fitna came, false prophet. You know this? False prophet came around the time of Abu Bakr, and people deniers of zakah. Military-wise, we were might. We had the might. Ideologically, they were trying to claim false prophethood, ideologically trying to make Muslims weak, but ideologically, we did not become weak because we were military-wise strong. So, nothing could damage us and our civilization, because at least we had a might. 7 centuries down the road, different challenges came, but we were still able to hold off. 7 centuries down the road, military challenge came, and that is issue of Mongol, Tartar, where they came and wiped the Muslim Ummah, except Egypt. Every Muslim country, what we have country now, got defeated. Baghdad, they killed 1.8 million Muslims. How many? 1.8 million Muslims were massacred, assassinated, killed through torture, including women, including children, by Mongols. Worst calamity which happened around that time. But still we survived. Still our civilization survived. How? Because this time we were ideologically strong. So either ideological challenge and military, we were strong, or military problem and then ideologically strong. Now this challenge which we are having right now, after the Ottoman Empire demise, and now we have both the challenges are right now. Ideologically we are very weak. Our young man or young woman, young brother, young sister doesn't feel confident on Islamic social values that this is good. They always feel apologetic. They are not confident in Islamic economic system. Islamic political philosophy was never established in last few years. And military wise, you know our situation. Yes, sir. Yeah. So Yazan is asking, in Ottoman Empire, where is the point of demise? There is no one point. Remember this whenever. By the way, inshallah, for this history class, if you can just take the questions at the end, inshallah. This is different than fiqh because I'm trying to put my thoughts together. Whenever any civilization falls, a mistake from a premature student is, oh, World War I happened and that was a mistake. That was a blunder. But it was a series of mistakes, and that was just the symptom. The root cause was serious, and we'll discuss Ottoman Empire in the second semester, because this semester we are planning to finish Abbasids. But this challenge, what we are facing right now, is unprecedented. We never had ideological and military challenge both. And that's why we are falling apart in terms of our Muslim majority countries. Furthermore, let's talk about Muslims in America. We talk about Muslims in the globe right now, right? Muslims in America, one of the most hated minorities, yes or no? Left hate us, right hate us, and we ourselves hate each other. Isn't it? While political engagement is one measure of success, like some people might think that, okay, become a congressman or congresswoman, if they can define what a woman is, and then you will able to change the policy. So compromise on your religion and become a congressman or congresswoman. We had this thought in our Muslim community back in the days, you remember? What happened? There are series of blunder happened with those individuals. Series of blunder. In the name of political activism, compromises, and we have seen that the harms came from them. But okay, if we are not going into the politics at the extreme level of left and right, because we have seen the harms, but now tell me, how many of us Muslims in America hold esteemed academic positions in top tier US academic university? None. Illa mashallah. What percentage of important studies in the human sciences bear Muslim names in America? Illa mashallah. None. How much are we involved, brothers and sisters, in grassroots politics at the school board level where all the big decisions of curriculum will come. Not at the national level politics. School curriculum is being decided by school boards and these districts. How many of us, we don't even have to compromise on our faith like these Muslim politicians are doing at the national level. How many of us are even making an impact? Then move forward. How many hospitals, orphan serving organizations, youth centers, think tanks, and similar institutions, which is for larger mainstream American people, not only Muslims, are there run by Muslim or Muslim people? Whenever you go to these hospitals or these major universities, you will see grassroots level of Christianity. They started that. Even though they lost because of Reformation, we'll talk about this. How effective is our networking in ensuring deserving Muslims secure employment in various fields? So we are not doing our work also. It's easy to criticize the condition of Pakistan and Afghanistan and Sudan and Ummah and then drink chai. What are we doing here? Learning the history will actually help us. There are 8 reasons why we should learn history. If you want to write it down. There are 8 reasons why we should learn Muslim history from the time of Umayyads, Abbasid, because I'm assuming that Seerah, all of us have the idea about Seerah, Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and Abu Bakr and Umar. There are 8 reasons why we should study history. First reason, one of the lessons you will learn after reading the history of Muslims, that our religion is divine, but our history is humane. First lesson you will get after reading the history is that our religion is divine, but our history is not divine. What does it mean? We have a habit of romanticizing history, right? But Rasulullah was protected by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Khulafa Rashidin had the best system after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But then we know that our history had some mistakes also. And we'll discuss that. We had civil wars in the early history also. When you were going to see that some of the Sahabas had the civil war, and Sahabas were the best people, right? They were the best people, radiyallahu anhum, right? Then it will make it easy for you to reconcile when you see Muslim personalities on Twitter arguing with each other, and you would say, man, they are following Quran and Sunnah, why they are arguing? Or when people better than them, definitely, had the disagreement, then it is okay. We should worship only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we should not idolize our scholars. Okay? So the first thing, our history is not divine, but our religion is divine. Second reason why we should study history is to become ideologically strong. Fikr, ideologically should be strong. Otherwise, if you are learning fiqh, okay, we just had the first discussion of fiqh class, you remember? And I told you about talfiq and tanakkul and takhayyur, all those things, right? Patching and expert selection. If ideologically you are weak, as an American Muslim, you are completely liberalized. Then you know what you will do with the fiqh and expert selection? You will going to show acrobatic skills to pick the most lenient position to fit into the liberal Islam. And that's what we are doing, some of us, right? That's what you were suggesting in your question. When you become ideologically strong, then you don't pick fiqh position based on the dominant philosophies, you will pick fiqh position based on the evidence and what is good for the community and what is proven from the mainstream. Is that clear? So ideologically becoming strong will help us also in our other studies of Islam. You will realize that from the very beginning we had these challenges of predominant ideologies impacting Islam, but because ideologically Muslims were strong, they were confident, so these philosophies didn't bother them in the early phase. But now ideologically we are weak. Now it's very easy for our Muslim youth to swing like either on the left side or on the right side. So this is second benefit of studying history, it will make ideologically strong. Third benefit is all the great scholars from the past who were able to revive until present didn't only seek and taught knowledge in their madaris, Rather, they impacted actions of the people. We're going to see history from a scholarly perspective. So you take Umar bin Abdul Aziz. Everyone agreed that he was a Mujaddid of the first century, right? He was not only a great person or a great tabi'i, but he was also a great politician. After that you have Hassan al-Basri. After that you have Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal. They never said, okay, we're going to discuss Islam within the madaris. When the politicians are trying to change Islam, they say, no, this is the Islam of Haqq. We won't change Islam. Ibn Taymiyyah, Sheikh Izzuddin bin Abdul Salam, they all actually engaged in the battles. We know them as scholars. This is something which have corrupted us, that we are trying to make Islam as an academia, learning, teaching. Okay, what else? What you will get from this? Did you presented a community based on the rules which you are teaching? But all these scholars you are going to see from the first century until the present time, they had knowledge fused with action, knowledge fused with amal. This is extremely important. Can you imagine if a person goes to a medical school, pays $500,000 for school fees, studies 10 years for medicine, and then he says, I'm not practicing medicine. No, I need to study 10 more years. I need to study 10. Okay, you all have to study, we have to be humble. But start acting, man. That's a waste of talent. Third benefit, we'll learn from all the great scholars about the balance they will bring in action and knowledge. Fourth benefit is that learning from the mistakes of the past. If we were going to discuss certain individuals and their mistakes, then it's not to demonize them all the time, but it's just to tell that, okay, this scholar made the mistake and we should learn, because we might have the same challenge, so we should not repeat the mistake. That's another benefit of studying history. Do you want me to give example? How many of you know Sir Sayyid Ahmad Khan? He's a famous scholar in India. A closer Arabic version would be, I won't say exactly, but Sheikh Muhammad Abdul from Egypt. Jamaluddin Afghani was a little far, but we'll discuss all these in second. So Sayyid Ahmad Khan had a great intention. Muslims are declining, we need to get back the izzah of the ummah. Intention is great, right? What he did? He said, okay, let us use the Quran and Sunnah, go back to Quran and reinterpret. But Sir Sayyid Ahmad Khan had the biggest beard. Sir Sayyid Ahmad Khan was so strict, before his blunder I can tell you, he was so strict that once in India when the British were there, one of the wives of the British Viceroy wanted to meet the wife of Sir Sayyid Ahmad Khan. Sir Sayyid Ahmad Khan told his wife that do not remove niqab in front of this sister. Do not remove your niqab in front of this sister. Why? Why? Because he says that Quran says nisa'ihinna, when Allah mentions about the maharim, that your own woman, so she is not my woman, she is non-Muslim, I should cover my face. He was that strict. I'm not saying this is authorized fiqh position, it's more of an emotional position. Why I'm telling you this, I have to compensate. But Sir Sayyid Ahmad Khan, with this spirit, he made a blunder in interpretation of the Quran. What was the blunder? He denied all the metaphysics and unseen miracles. He says Mi'raj didn't happen, it was just the dream of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The miracles of Musa alayhi salam didn't happen. The jinn doesn't exist. Jinn is like an angry person. If Yafi becomes angry, he will become jinn. Right? Angel, if any brother is nice, mashallah, polite, or sister also, they are nice, they are just tasawwurat. Why he is doing this? Tell me, with this spirit. Because science at that time was Newtonian, not Einsteinian. And at that time, science came as a definite thing. It was a scientific revolution time. So it was really weird to consider to believe in the unseen world if you are dealing with the scientific community. So instead of challenging the scientific world, he end up denying the unseen so that he can fit Quran into the scientific application. You know the challenge now. Like fixing square pegs in circle hole. We are also doing this. We are trying to adjust Quran and Hadith. Nowadays, you have heard the fatwa that homosexuality is halal, right? Not the fatwa from mainstream, but someone said homosexuality is halal because the incident of, because they want to adjust Islam into the liberalization. And they said that actually, Lut al-Islam nation was destroyed because it was a rape. It was without consent. It was not about homosexuality with consent. Such a defeatist mentality means a slave would be better than you scholar. How can you interpret Quran by just jeopardizing entire hermeneutical system of Quran and Sunnah? This can happen when you are using philosophies to interpret Quran. Is that clear? Learning the history will help us. Learning the history will, Hibban, it's time. Go. Jazakumullah khairan. Learning the history will going to help us to learn from the mistakes of the past scholar. Should you just say Sir Sayyid Ahmad Khan became non-Muslim? No. He did mistake, inshallah Allah will forgive him. But we will discuss about him and others like him to learn from their mistake that we should not change Islam based on the predominant trend of the intellect or philosophy. Is that clear? And this is also very important. Whether you are Islamic movement or Islamic seminary or Islamic madrasa, you need to have a annual audit of philosophy, because every seminary, every movement, every organization will going to become a mouthpiece of a predominant philosophy. That's why some institutions, some seminaries you will find them, they are speaking the language of the right. Some seminaries and some movement, they will be speaking the language of the left. Right? And you need to do audit. Are we leftists or rightists? No, we are Muslim. So you need to do audit. Where are we wrong? And then the entire seminary or the entire movement will going to focus on reinterpreting the Quran and Sunnah so that they can confirm their political movements. This is extremely, extremely important. I know this was a little advanced, but we're going to discuss it inshallah in future. Okay, how many reasons I told you so far? 4. Fifth reason. As I told you, learning from the mistakes of the past, naturally learning from the good things and positive changes which were made by these scholars at their time will going to help us not to reinvent the wheel. Like if a scholar came in the past, like we're going to discuss Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah. I know Ibn Taymiyyah is idolized and demonized in some circles, but if you're going to discuss like Imam Ghazali in 5th century and Ibn Taymiyyah in 7th century, we're going to see how these scholars responded to the challenges. And let's say Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah in 7th century, he went back to the original sources because a lot of issues came in following the hierarchy. So he says, okay, let's go back to the original sources so we can learn and take inspiration from Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah. So one of the benefits of learning history is that you can take positive things also from the scholar instead of reinventing the wheel. Sixth, should I give you another example of this point? How many of you know what Devbandi is? Raise your hand. What is Devbandi? It's not a madrasa originally. It became madrasa. It was a movement. It's a movement it's an anti-modernity movement. And they opened the madrasa, which reflects that. When the flood of modernity came, so Sayyid Ahmad Khan was one who says, accept the modernity, accept the scientific revolution, let's accept the good and reject the evil. But how he did, he actually rejected some of the Quranic facts because maybe at that time he couldn't recognize the challenge. May Allah forgive him. The other approach was a Devbandi approach. And they would say that we are not learning science. We are not even the fatwa were there that it's haram to learn science and English. If you go back to the original fatwa, because they said that, and they had the approach. So when we were going to see their different approaches as in our history classes, you were going to find out what is good for us in America as a Muslims. This is one approach, this is second approach, this is third approach. So without knowing them, how can you figure out as a community how to survive, how your Because if you don't have any strategy, your next generation will dilute. So we are going to see their strategies, why they came to this conclusion. Even though sometimes it looks like illogical, but at the end of the day, it was logical. So we'll see that inshallah, and we're going to see and learn from the great movements or the individuals inshallah. Sixth is that also to realize that the people who contributed, especially in the last few centuries, were not necessarily, or most of the time they were traditional scholars, but sometimes they were non-traditional scholars also. For example, Salahuddin Ayyubi was he a Mujaddid? Most of the scholars like Sheikh Abul Hasan al-Nadwi and others, they would say he revived the Ummah. He revived the Ummah. He was not a scholar. We know who he was, right? He was a Mujahid. He was a lead of the military army. So we were going to see that yes, traditional scholarship is a requirement for most of the time for if you want to bring a positive change, but not all the time, there are exceptions. The seventh thing is, while, by the way, Sheikh Salahuddin Ayyubi, rahimahullah, he never performed Hajj. We know him as one of the Mujaddids, we know him as the Salahuddin Ayyubi, the one who gave Ummah the lost glory back, right? And when he was on his deathbed, he says, I was so busy in jihad that I never get the chance to perform Hajj. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. And inshallah, when we are going to discuss about Salahuddin Ayyubi in 6th century, we are going to discuss more about him inshallah. Point number 7 is, while studying history, it's also important for students to know fiqh and the mainstream opinions of fiqh. Because if you're not well versed in fiqh, if you just study history, you will end up in becoming a modernist. You will try to use the political philosophy and history, and you don't know the mainstream opinion, you will pick the most lenient opinion, which is not even endorsed by Quran and Sunnah, to fit in the crowd. And you might try to respond to one extreme from the other. There was one person called Sheikh Qasim Amin. He's the first Muslim feminist, came around 1920s in Egypt. Qasim Amin. He said, let's revive Islam. That's a problem with when you say revive Islam without knowledge, that will happen. Let's revive Islam. Because Ottoman Empire is about to demise, let's revive Islam. And what he did? He says, niqab is haram. You might have heard this, right? So any of your sisters? Niqab is haram. Okay. Do we believe that both the opinions niqab and hijab are proven from the mainstream? Yes. But if you are saying, because you are so impressed with the Western European imperialization, that niqab is haram, let's empower the woman because this is empowerment according to you. You are saying one position is haram, which is endorsed by mainstream scholars. Then the counter response came by some people that no, niqab is fard, hijab is not acceptable. Because they wanted to respond one extreme from the other. What these both groups didn't realize is that both these opinions are coming from the mainstream fiqh. If they would have known mainstream fiqh positions along with the history, they wouldn't have said one is haram and other is wajib. They would have said both are okay, but maybe I'm inclined towards one over the other, right? So it's extremely important for us to know history and fiqh. And the last thing is, while studying history, it's important to study tazkiyah because you know who is controlling the affairs of this world. Otherwise, it's easy to become optimistic when you are going to see this is not going right in this year, this is not going right in this time. When you know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala controls everything, then you know, subhanallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring us back, our glory back, inshallah, as promised by Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, inshallah ta'ala. Okay, so tazkiyah will tell you who is the controller of this dunya. Okay, inshallah. Let's start with, okay, 11:05. Today we might only have 30 minutes for tafsir, inshallah. Let me go through history, inshallah. Okay. Is it too academic or is it okay? Okay. Please tell me. Yes. That along with the history, you need to know tazkiyah, that Allah is the controller of the world, because it's easy if you don't know the tazkiyah, if you don't know Allah is the one who controls the world, it's easy to become pessimistic. Because you will see, especially last 100 years, you will see loss after loss after. It's easy to become pessimistic. But if you know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is controlling everything, then you can take lessons from your mistakes instead of becoming pessimistic. Yes? 6 point, can you remind me, subhanAllah, anyone 6 point? Huh? Huh? Yeah. So it's about it's about traditional scholarship. Is not always about tradition. Is that sometime you need other aspects of life, like Salahuddin Ayyubi was a military army leader. So that is something which we need to pay attention, inshallah. Am I receiving questions on Slido? I don't think so. Can you do something, Sabur? Because this is Slido questions, but I didn't receive Slido questions. Okay. Okay. The questions are, subhanallah, we can't easily separate West versus us now and need to use existing systems to advance Islam, but current Western Islamic leader is equal to best Muslim. How can we support them? I didn't get the question properly. Can you rephrase it? I'm so sorry. Let's say you know a difference of opinion, one or more outside your mazhab. I'll answer this fiqh question after the class. History question I'm answering right now, inshallah. How does intention play a role in fiqh? How would you respond to someone that says that there is ikhtilat between Sahaba? Whether read my book, I would ask them to read my book about ikhtilat. You mentioned that fiqh. All the fiqh questions I will answer, inshallah, after the class. Any history question, legal maxims, again. So far, fiqh questions I'll answer after the history class and before the tafsir class, inshallah. Okay. There's a saying about history, if you want to write it down. A nation which doesn't know its history have no roots. A nation which doesn't know its history have no roots. Very few people are even actually teaching this. How many seminaries in Islamic studies are actually teaching Islamic history? Few. One of the objectives of this entire history, this semester and next semester, is to educate our students about Muslim Ummah, especially in the last 14 centuries, but in a pragmatic, realistic way. So that at the end of the day we come up with a solution. Okay, this is what happened in 1400 years. And now this is what scholars present, how we can actually apply this. Our special focus will be in second semester, last 200 years, because that's where most of the changes happen. So we're going to give special attention to that, inshallah. Subhanallah, we are surrounded by different paradigms we don't even know, which affect our religious understanding. Liberalism, conservatism, secularism, feminism. We are trying to make heads and tails of it, but with extreme little guidance. How many of us have guidance about how to deal with these different frameworks within Islamic paradigm? Forget about Jummah Khutbah and Friday Khatira. Even subhanallah, some of the students of knowledge do not even know about these isms. Subhanallah. That's why this course is extremely important, that we're going to discuss all these different isms and their root and how they are different than Islamic paradigm and what to do. And Muslim ignorance is so general. If you ask Muslim how World War I and World War II is connected to Muslims, they don't know. And they have studied History 101 in their colleges. Read it from Islamic perspective, you will see that, subhanallah. Similarly, why Umayyad Empire decline came, why Abbasids came, why Ottoman decline. As a result, subhanallah, you will see Islam became really theoretical, isn't it? When you go to a madrasa or a masjid, you will see theoretical Islam. And because we are surrounded by it, our work, at our school, at our academia, by these isms, we don't see reconciliation. So basically they say Islam is relevant in the masjid, just like Christianity is relevant in the church. But don't talk to me about changing school curriculum and making it Sharia compliant. because that's bringing Islam outside. No, astaghfirullah. Your Islam will be good. We will going to have a event, interfaith fundraiser at White House. Joe Biden will ask you to recite some ayat of the Quran in Arabic. Make sure you don't translate. And then it's okay, because that's Islam we need. We will have iftari for you, halal food. But the moment you will say that actually these are the laws given by the God, let's talk about changing our society. MashaAllah, I like your voice, so I want you to read this. Because I saw you speaking, mashallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make you a good Sharia compliant speaker. Ameen. Did you see my pauses?
In modernity, I've met some leaders who are activists, and I've been consistently shocked by their lack of knowledge. How many can even name the principal intellectual systems of our time? Structuralism, postmodernism, realism, analytical philosophy, critical theory, and all the rest are closed books to them. Instead, they burble on about the international Zionist Masonic conspiracy or the new Crusader invasion and similar fantasies. If you want to understand why so many Islamic movements failed, we should perhaps begin by acknowledging that their leaders simply do not have the intellectual grasp of the modern world, which is a precondition for successfully overcoming the obstacles to Islamic governance. The Muslim activists who don't understand the ideologies of modernism can hardly come to overcome them. No less mendable ignorance prevails when it comes to non-ideological trends in the late 20th century, which is likely to prevail in the new millennium. I'm concerned to alert Muslims to realities that are taking shape around them, which are molding a world in which their traditional discourse will have no application whatsoever, and it is suicidal to assume that we are insulated from these realities, because we live in one world now, thanks to monoculturalizing process, aka globalism, which is accelerating. For example, there's a mosque in suburbs of West and McDonald's in Mecca. We may be confident about our faith, but not sure about our next generation. What happens to the young Muslim student in an American university? He learns about postmodernism and post-structuralism, and these are the ideologies of profound influences in the modern West. He asks the Islamic activists how to disprove these ideologies, and of course they can't. He grows confused and his confidence in Islam is shaken under such conditions. Only a less intelligent will remain a Muslim, a filtering process which is already painfully evident in some activist circles. It is therefore an obligation, farida, to understand the processes which are underway around us, which is by Shaykh Abdul Hakim.
MashaAllah. I know some of you were sleeping while he was reading, but did you feel something? Did you feel a pain? And after studying these isms for last few years, I realized they are religion. That's why actually in second semester we named our class, when we discuss these different isms, Islam versus modern idols. Islam versus modern idols. Subhanallah. I just forwarded this code in the group also. Okay. That's why it's extremely important for us to know the history, and then not only your history, but as we are going in decline, what was coming in the other side, what was rising on the other side, so that we can have a comparison and comparative analysis. When you are forced to think something is good or bad, it's because of your environment. For us, good or bad comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and our reason, but our reason is being pushed by these predominant philosophies. So it is extremely important for us, if we want to know the truth of Quran and Sunnah, to know the false idols. Right? How many of you know Allama Iqbal, Muhammad Allama Iqbal? Raise your hand. He's a famous poet. I'm not, my Urdu is very good, but it's very weak also according to Allama Iqbal standards. He said something in one of his poetry, which actually inspired me to name the course in second semester. He says, when at his time nationalism was a big thing. So he said, in taza khudaon mein bada sabse watan hai. Among the freshest of deities, idols, is the idol of nationalism. You will start thinking that Muslim brother in Syria or in Afghanistan is not related to me because I am in Pakistan and in America. That just dissolves the concept of ummah. Obviously, in terms of Aqidah, we have to be very careful here because Allama Iqbal was saying this from an emotional perspective, not from the Aqidah perspective. So if some Muslim believes in La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, basic tenets of Islam, we cannot say, as some of the ignorant Muslims have said, that they are non-Muslim. No, they are still Muslim. But we would say that can impact your religious understanding. Okay, this is very, very important. Okay, let's start this. Subhanallah, I don't know if we will have time to even go through. We'll skip this, inshallah, about Ibn Khaldun, rahimahullah. Or should we read this, Ibn Khaldun? Ibn Khaldun, I would say his work is being translated in English. Just Amazon him, you can find his work, especially his first volume in the history. Famous historian, famous social scientist. If you want to study social science, you have to study Ibn Khaldun from a Muslim perspective. He says that the defeated, the vanquished, the vanquished is defeated. The defeatist always want to imitate the victor. The defeatist person always wants to follow victor. Can you give me any example? Yeah, Sheikh Ibrahim?
People following colonialism after colonialism.
Absolutely. And even when he says in terms of their dresses, in terms of their condition, I'm not saying wearing suit is haram, by the way. I'm not saying this. This is actually nowhere top. This is kind of a half Amriki, half Saudi style. But I'm saying when you will see them dress in a certain way, speak in a certain language, what they're trying to do, they are adopting predominant culture which is acceptable in that society, seem as cool in the society. This is kind of a trendsetter or trend follower? Trend follower. And especially when that trend is set by most of the non-Muslims with their assumptions and their religion and their metaphysics. So this is basically Ibn Khaldun rahimahullah. I'll tell you an example. You know Spain, subhanallah, when occupation of Spain occurred, when French in 1492, and it was lost. You know Spain gone from us. If you read the books, for a long time, the Christian invaders in Spain were frustrated on one thing. Even though they had the Spain now from Muslim, they had the Christian army, but they were afraid of one thing. They were frustrated of one thing, and that thing is how to make sure to remove the hijab from these non-Muslim women, because hijab became part of that culture. Because Ibn Khaldun says you will imitate the victors. Throughout the globe, Ottoman Empire, and they were mighty army. So just like a guy in Pakistan wants to speak English in an American accent and he will think it's cool, and a sister wants to remove the hijab because she thinks in her imagination she is Beyonce in Saudi. No, what was the latest concert in Saudi which is sparked controversy? Who was that? What was her name? Come on, it's makruh not to come, right? Yeah? Okay, I don't know her name, subhanallah. But may Allah protect all of us. If you know her name, say astaghfirullah al-azim. That's what I was asking, subhanallah. No one said, mashallah, all of you are protected, mashallah. But it became cultural hegemony. So it's extremely important for us that we are not following the local trends by as it is. We figure out why we are thinking in a particular way, because it was being enforced on our mentality because of the cultural domination of certain trends. Okay, today we will going to only discuss this hadith, inshallah, and we will going to start Umayyad dynasty next time, inshallah. We'll finish in 8 minutes, inshallah ta'ala. Rasulullah says, say hadith. By the way, when I say Rasulullah, we have to say sallallahu alayhi wasallam. He said, this hadith is mentioned in many different books. Inna Allah yab'athu li hadhihi al-umma ala ra'si kulli mi'ati sanatin man yujaddidu laha dinaha. That Allah will raise for this community, for this ummah, at the end of every, no, this I don't like this translation, by the way. Not at the end. Every 100 years, a Mujaddid. Do not use the word reformer. Please, brothers and sisters, do not use the word reformer. Use revivalist, that's better. Or use organic word as Mujaddid. Why we should not use the word reformer? First of all, Islam doesn't need reformation. Second, which other religion get lost while they were trying to reform their religion 100 years back, and now we are buying their churches and making mosques? Christianity. They wanted to reform their religion because of modernity. Just Google it. The Protestant, when the modernity came, they said, let's reform Christianity. And then evangelical became separate. And they reformed so much that there is no Christianity left now. And now we are buying their church. And now we are trying to say that we want to reform Islam also. And then so that 50 years live down the road, then we'll be selling these masajid also. Islam doesn't need reformation. Yes, but it needs revivalism. There are layers of corrupt understanding which will come and corrupt the original understanding of Islam. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will send every 100 years one or multiple people, I will explain that inshallah, to revive the correct understanding of the Islam. And when we were going to understand this history course, we were going to see this from those Mujaddid perspective. So it will make it easy for us inshallah ta'ala. So we'll say, okay, first century this happened, second century this happened. But this hadith is extremely, extremely important in our time. When Allah says His religion is perfect, al-yawma akmaltu lakum dinakum, when Allah says this religion is perfect, why do we need revival? The reason why we need revival, religion is perfect, but a predominant either ideology or military or whatever reason will come to corrupt the understanding of the religion. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will do two things to revive the original understanding. First, He gave us Quran and Sunnah and tradition. But then second, He will going to bring individuals and maybe now movements who can respond to those challenges, whether they are ideological or military or so on and so forth, from the early on, to defend the traditional Islam, to defend the original Islam, to defend the organic Islam, right? And that is why Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said this in this hadith, subhanallah. By the way, when we are talking about, this is the most abused hadith also. You know, this is the most abused hadith. Every group, we have so many flavors in Islam now, mashallah. Every flavor will going to say, our Shaykh is actually Mujaddid because of this hadith. I'm not naming any flavor. I don't want to get cancelled. This is first class. We want to continue inshallah. Every flavor of Islam, they will say, our Shaykh was a Mujaddid. Okay, but there were 10 other people who were claiming this also. Who is right? Maybe all of them are right, and we'll see that inshallah. So let's understand how the Salaf, early scholars, understood this hadith. That will going to give us the idea of the true understanding of this hadith, okay? By the way, from the beginning, Islam had challenges, I told you, internal and external challenges. You know this, right? Internal sectarian issues, and then you had ideological issues. External challenges were ideological and Greek philosophies, and Easternization and Westernization also. Easternization, the challenges of Persian ideology came, Hindu ideology came. We'll discuss in Abbasid Empire. Now Western ideology challenges are coming, and that will impact you. Similarly, external challenges of crusades were there. So challenges were there. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would send individual and movements to protect the originality of Islam. As we're going to see from the next classes inshallah. How did scholars understood this hadith so that we don't end up abusing this inshallah? By the way, will the Mujaddid be scholar only, or will he be a non-scholar also sometime? Not majority. Some scholars say it will only be scholar. Some scholars say no. It can be a non-scholar also, depending on his revival work. Like we have Salahuddin Ayyubi. Military-wise, he was a Mujaddid at that time. And that's why some scholars will put him, he's a Mujaddid of that particular century. He's not a scholar for sure. He was not a scholar for sure. Similarly, in our latter times, there are people who are going to play tug of war, because now in our time, who is a scholar? If you are graduated from my seminary, then you are a sheikh. If you are graduated from different seminary, even if you studied 20 years, you are not a sheikh. So we should not go into that debate because a lot of prejudice have corrupted our modern understanding. How early scholars understood this hadith? First, the concept of tajdeed, revival, not reformist, revivalist, is Islamic concept because it's said by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. One of the meaning is to bring it back. One of the meaning, the earlier scholar said that one of the meanings of tajdeed or mujaddid, that he will going to blow the spirit of original Islam. From time you will have false concepts of inorganic concepts, political, philosophical concepts of Islam which corrupt the understanding, and this person will come and renewed, or I would say revive the original spirit of Islam. So that's how they would understood, and that's why Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal said, Imam Ahmad was 3rd century scholar, right? When he explained this hadith, you know what he explained? How many centuries before him passed away? Yes, sir. So he says 1st century Mujaddid according to Imam Ahmad was Umar bin Abdul Aziz. 2nd century according to Imam Ahmad was Imam al-Shafi'i. Now I want you to think, you think that these mazahib have battles? Imam Ahmad says 2nd century Mujaddid is Imam Shafi. Can you imagine the humbleness of the person? Subhanallah. And Imam Shafi was a teacher of Imam Ahmad and a student of Imam Ahmad also. A student is very disrespectful word for these great people. But Imam Shafi used to say to Imam Ahmad later on when he became Imam Ahmad that if you know about the sanad of hadith and sahih hadith, then please correct me. Hadith is your field. So can you imagine this? And then Imam Ahmad is giving this regard to Imam Shafi. That is the kind of respect which they had. And now you see Twitters. Allah al-Musta'an. Okay, so second understanding how this earlier scholar understood this hadith, they also means that tajdeed doesn't come, tajdeed, the concept of tajdeed doesn't mean to ignore some part of the Quran and some part of the hadith. You know, many times a person will say, no, you know what, in American Islam, we need to accept homosexuality because we need to accept them. Love is love. We need to be acceptable. And Imam Asif, you should be banned from our masjid because you wrote a book on LGBTQ. One sister called someone in INT and said that, why did you hire Imam Asif? The guy said, we didn't even hire him, how can we fire him? Allahu Akbar. I was feeling miskina, such a poor woman, man. Allahu Akbar. But I realized how far you can go. How far you can go. Really, do you want to do tajdeed by saying homosexuality is okay? Is that the concept of revivalism we want to bring? Then there is no Islam. Because you're changing Islam altogether. Allah understand. So second understanding, the early scholar said that tajdeed doesn't mean you do the tajdeed, revive the religion. Tajdeed means you revive the understanding of the religion. Because religion is there, organic. But the corrupt layers will come, you need to remove that. That will be the understanding of tajdeed. Third, and the last would be, tajdeed is purely a religious concept. It's not a philosophical and psychological concept. If you're trying to bring your philosophical, psychological concept and trying to mix that with tajdeed, that's not tajdeed. You are having a liberal version or conservative version of Islam. And it's very easy as an immature young people, you are intellectually disabled. Young brothers and young sisters, you are intellectually disabled. Take this. I know it will hurt your ego, but young brothers and sisters, you are intellectually disabled. Say with me, we are intellectually disabled people. What does it mean? You will swing like pendulum. Don't reach to conclusions just by listening to one speech with a good camera work. Don't change your opinions, especially primary things. Because there are a lot of philosophical underpinnings coming. Have mentors, and we'll discuss about that in Tazkiyah class, inshallah. So tajdeed doesn't mean to have a philosophical reform or psychological reform. This is also very important. By the way, remember this, there are a few scholars who gave few names of Mujaddid. That 1st century he was a Mujaddid, 2nd century he was a Mujaddid, and they would disagree within each other. We would say whatever names are coming from scholars, it's a speculative, not definite, because they have a disagreement. Now the question to you is, when Rasulullah says every 100 years I will send May Yujaddidu laha dinaha, someone to revive the religion, is it one person or multiple? What do you think?
Multiple.
Very good. Imam Suyuti said it's one, but vast majority of his scholars said it's multiple. That removes the problem when you say my sheikh is Mujaddid and your sheikh is not Mujaddid. Okay, and I'll tell you how to remove this. Sheikh Yusuf Qardawi rahimahullah, he said that actually it's not only multiple, it's about one particular field. So in ilm kalam, let's say in sunnah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal. In ilm kalam, at that time, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent someone else. Ilm kalam is to defend religion using rational sciences. We'll talk about this. In the field of qiraat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would send someone else. So, and that's why you see, according to Imam Ahmad, the 2nd century revivalist is Imam Shafi. But according to vast majority of scholars, they would consider Hassan al-Basri. You can say both of them. In the defense of Sunnah and fiqh, you would say Imam Shafi was great. But in other aspects, you can say Imam Hassan al-Basri. So instead of idolizing one position, you can take multiple in different aspects. Like if a person, okay, leave that, inshallah. So yeah, I would say this just removes the confusion, inshallah ta'ala. Any questions so far?
We have list of this kind of Mujaddids in later centuries.
Sorry?
You said that first 2 centuries Mujaddids only, but
It will come, the entire class. So we're going to see Imam Hassan al-Basri, if you'll see this. The first semester is this. We'll discuss Imam Umar bin Abdul Aziz, rahimahullah, Hassan al-Basri, rahimahullah, Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal. Not because I'm Hanbali, but vast majority of scholars said that he was a 3rd century. By the way, some people said Imam Abu Hanifa and Imam Malik was also. But because Imam Ahmad revivalism was more in line with his time's philosophical assumptions, which is very close and relevant to us in America. So that's why his history is important. Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, then Abul Hasan Ashari, in terms of ilm kalam, vast majority of scholars put him as a revivalist. Even there is a group of people who hate the title Ashari, but they would say that Imam Abul Hasan Ashari at the end of his time became very righteous, even then. But we won't go into the us versus them. We were going to say the evidence of both the sides, because this is just holistic method. Imam Ghazali rahimahullah, 5th century scholar, we will see his 4 reforms he brought, which is very close to us. Nuruddin Zangi and Salahuddin Ayyubi. You notice I didn't write Imam in the beginning, because they were not traditional scholars, but they were revivalists. Sheikh Izzuddin bin Abdus Salam, we'll discuss most in detail, because it's closer to our time, is Imam Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah. We're going to discuss it inshallah in this semester. That's what our plan is, inshallah. And while we are going, so we're going to go through Umayyad for the first centuries, and then Umayyad will decline and Abbasids will come, so we'll discuss those factors also, inshallah. So yeah, this is the entire course of the first semester, inshallah. Ottoman and the last 200-year history will be next semester.